said he was qualified, so he whooped his ass, while he was in there. Now, the other stuff that happened, it went down the way it did, man.
I would like to wish you all, you Brits, go fuck yourself.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Grey Talks Wrestling. It's time to chat about what many say is the best WrestleMania of all time. I can see why they say that. You've got Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan. It's outside of the United States for the first time, from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. 68,000 fans packing into the SkyDome. It looked amazing. And there were some really good matches, but there were some shockers as well. Let's have it right. Let's start off with Coco Beware losing to Rick the Model Martel. The Model last year turned on Tito Santana, and he started his gimmick. The Model, he's a heel. They've got to build him up, and he's got to get a win here over Coco Beware. And he does. 4 minutes, short match. Quebec Crab for the win. Next up, the tag team titles are on the line. Demolition looking to three-peat. That's right, three-peat. Become 3-time WWF Tag Team Champions, and they do, in a short match. Got to give Haku his flowers. He carried this team, carried the run. It was all about him. Andre was on his last legs. It was hard to watch. Hard to watch him get in a ring and try and attempt to do anything. The highlights of this were Demolition winning the titles and Andre turning on Bobby the Brain Heenan after getting slapped in the face, blamed for it all, turns on Heenan. Heenan was fantastic here, sold everything brilliantly, and it was just sad to see Andre in this sort of condition, but it was nice that he got this last moment and he got the fans on his side once again, and he goes off into the sunset as a babyface once again. We never see Andre compete again, and it's just sad that what happens to him, really. But nice that he got this moment here. Earthquake squashes Hercules Hernandez. Of course he does. They're trying to build the Earthquake up, and he needs a big win here, and he gets that big win. Hits him a couple of times with his Earthquake squash, and yeah, just takes out Hercules. Brutus the Barber Beefcake somehow defeats Mr. Perfect. Why they felt the need to take away the perfect record, I will never know. He was the perfect person to be building up for a title challenge, and you beat him by losing with a schoolboy to Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who was going nowhere. Who thought that was a good idea? Hart Foundation proved that they're ready for a title match as they squashed the Bolsheviks. This was decent, I suppose. Got to talk about the match that was cut out. Why was Rowdy Roddy Piper and Bad News Brown cut from this? I understand why, but you've got to feel sorry for Bad News. This was probably his best match of all time, best feud of all time in the WWF, and now no one can see it. This was a story. This was great. This was legendary. This is a legendary moment that you cannot take away from either man. It happened. And now you're trying to hide it because you're worried about some snowflakes complaining. I'm sorry, but this should never have been taken out. What should have been taken out was that laughable moment with Greg the Hammer Valentine trying to play guitar, trying to sing a song. It was a joke. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Because next up we've got an awful tag match. Dusty Rhodes, Sweet Sapphire versus the Macho Man Randy Savage and Scary Sherry Martel. It's the Macho King, Queen Sherry. Great gimmick. I loved it. Loved everything they did. But here, it should have just been a singles match between Dusty and Randy, really. And what we got was the majority of the match was Sweet Sapphire standing in a ring shaking her ass. This was laughable. This encapsulated everything about Dusty Rhodes' run in the WWF. A joke. He was treated as a joke from start to finish, and he got it all over. That was the main thing. That was the surprising thing. He managed to get over still. The polka dot, sweet sapphire, and everything else they made him do. He still got it all over. This match was a joke. Terrible. But you got to give Sherry her flowers for getting anything out of Sweet Sapphire. She was fucking dreadful. Best tag match, of the whole show. Sleeper match. Orient Express versus the Rockers. Go watch that match. Very, very good. And we get Dino Bravo versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan. This was dreadful. Duggan wins with the 2x4. Then gets attacked by Earthquake after the match. $1 Million Man versus Jake the Snake Roberts. Probably the best singles match on the show. Love Jake Roberts' promo before this. Legendary promo. Just worth watching that. Bossman versus Akeem. Bossman's now a babyface. The split has happened. And this was what it was. Bossman's a good big man, actually. Got something out of Akeem. This was decent, actually. For two big men, they can go. This was okay. Not the worst match on the show, definitely. Then we get the embarrassing moment of Honky Tonk Man. Dino. Greg the Hammer Valentine. What have they done to him? Another person they treated pretty much as a joke. Like, people remember this more, his moment here, than they do the dog collar match with Rowdy Roddy Piper. This is pretty much it. This is the end of him. Like, no one's going to take you seriously after you do something like this. Highlight of this was seeing DDP driving him in the car to the ring. And then we get Jimmy Snuka versus Rick Rude, which is an okay match. Rick Rude gets the win. And they're trying to build him up as well. Right, he's on someone else that could have been a title contender. And then we get the main event. Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior. And for me, this is the peak of the golden era. The Hogan era. Whatever you want to call it. This is where it all starts to go downhill. After giving Ultimate Warrior the title. Let's have it right. Things don't get much better for a very long time. This was an okay match. Was what it was. A spectacle, really. You've got Ultimate Warrior. You've got Hulk Hogan. Two of the biggest names in the late 80s in the WWF. Both got massive fan bases. The kids love them. I loved it back then. But watching it back now, it was a pretty brutal match. But they told a decent story. The right person won, I suppose. But we learned that the right person really didn't win. Because, yeah, like I said, this is the peak of the WWF golden generation, golden era, Hulk Hogan era, whatever you want to call it. Things get a lot harder to watch. There aren't so many great pay-per-views. You have one or two every now and again. And up until maybe 96, things start to look a bit better. Anyway, let me know what you thought about WrestleMania VI down below. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.